What is your full name and did you have a nickname?
My full name, I was named for two aunts, uh, Willie, Maynard, Dawson, and my married name, Morris. And yes, I had a nickname. My father called me Bill, and I always laughed and said, well, you must have wanted a son then.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Waco, Texas, January the 11th, 1927.
What is your earliest childhood memory?
I have a memory of my older brother, Wade Lee, and I sitting on a bench having our picture taken. And I was 4 years old, and he was 6 years old.
How many siblings did you have?
I have two brothers and two sisters.
What were their names?
My older brother was Wade Lee Dawson, my younger brother John Dawson, and my two sisters were Jennifer Dawson and Carol Ann Dawson.
What was your favorite thing to do for fun as a child?
You know, I really can't remember having much fun. I remember that I liked to go to school. I enjoyed going to school, and didn't have many outside activities. I liked to read, and I liked to cook. I started cooking when I was 10 years old, and I loved cooking.
What was school like when you were a child?
As I recall, there weren't very many children in my schoolings. We had a teacher, and each class had a teacher, and I remember my teachers more when I was in the third, and fourth, and fifth grades. I don't recall my earlier. I don't believe we had kindergarten, and I don't remember much until the third grade.
Where all have you lived?
Well, I've lived several places. Of course, I grew up in Waco, Texas, my hometown, and I lived in Waco, Texas until I married and moved to the Texas Panhandle up past Amarillo in Spearman, Texas, and lived there for several years, where my children were born, and later on moved to Houston, Texas, Baytown, San Antonio, and now Georgetown, Texas.
What jobs did you have?
I had a job, my earliest job, I was a telephone operator when I was in between my years at college. I had a summer job as a telephone operator, and I was the one that said, number please, and thank you, and it was all voice telephone.
So what jobs did you have, like, as an adult? I heard you were a nurse.
For several years, as my children were in high school, I worked for a pediatrician in Baytown, Texas. I was the office manager for for two pediatricians, and my pediatrician was the owner, and he had a partner, and I enjoyed it very much. I loved the children. I loved visiting and talking with the mothers, and I always knew when there was something going around in town because our telephone was very busy, very busy. Mothers calling, needing reassurance for their children. I enjoyed it very much.
Who were your heroes or role models when you were young?
Well, of course, being named for my favorite aunts, you might say. My Aunt Willie was a very good speaker. Her husband, my uncle, pastored the First Baptist Church in Waco, Texas for 30 years, and she was the Sunday school teacher. Her class was mainly made up of co-eds at Baird University, and she was a wonderful Christian example, and I admired her very much.
What do you remember about your parents and grandparents?
My grandparents, my father's mother and father were still living. I knew them. They were very quiet, retired couple. I visited them occasionally. They were quite old. My mother's mother and father were younger, and I stayed with them when I was going to Baylor University and enjoyed being with them very much. What was the rest of the question?
Yeah, what you remember about your parents and grandparents?
Oh, grandparents, yes, okay.
What do you know about where your family is from?
My family, both my mother's family and my father's family came from Central Texas, around Waco, Corsicana, mostly north of Austin and Waco, Texas, mainly.
How is the world today different from what it was like when you were a child?
Well, very, very different, very different. I remember that our biggest pleasure, I lived for a while on a little farm when I was, excuse me, when I was in high school, a little farm, and we did not have electric lights or running water. And our biggest pleasure was a battery-operated radio. And we enjoyed, especially my brothers and I, we had certain programs that we loved, especially on Sunday nights, some of the mystery shows. And we enjoyed listening to the radio very much. And that was our main pleasure.
What big world events were the most memorable while you were growing up?
When I was growing up, the Sunday that December the 7th, and that when we were attacked at Pearl Harbor, December the 7th, I remember hearing Franklin D. Roosevelt announce that we were at war, and that memory, my dad sat up all night long listening on the radio. We didn't get to use the radio very much because it would use up the battery. But I remember on that night, Sunday night, he stayed up all night long listening to the reports. We were at war.
What is your favorite thing to do now?
My favorite, of course, is reading. I'm 90 years old, and I enjoy reading, and also I paint oil paintings. I enjoy it very much, but it's a labor of love because I do work at it. I wish I wouldn't be so self-critical about my paintings, but I'm not an abstract painter, and I love flowers, and it's just the kind of painting that I enjoy.
When did you first start learning how to paint?
Well, when I was in high school, for one Christmas, one of my aunts gave me some art paper and a box of charcoal. And so I taught myself how to paint with the charcoal. And my dad always admired my paintings, and he always encouraged me. And so from there, when I had the opportunity later on to take some art lessons, I enjoyed them very, very much.
What inspires you to paint?
Well, my dad's admiration of my little charcoal drawings inspired me, and so I enjoyed it very much, and I was then aware of all the painters, especially Monet, my very favorite. I love Monet. I wish I could paint like him, and since my eyesight's getting kind of poor, maybe I will start, because he was totally, almost totally blind, and his impressionist is a result of a lot of his poor eyesight. So my paintings now are becoming more like Monet's, but I still enjoy it and still try.
Where have you traveled out of the country?
Well, it was a long time before I ever rode on an airplane, and my first trip on an airplane was with my husband to Hawaii, and enjoyed it very, very much. And now my youngest son has lived in Malaysia through his work, and also Indonesia. But while he was living in Malaysia, my husband and I flew to Malaysia twice and visited with him and his family there in Malaysia.
What's your favorite place that you've traveled to?
I guess Hawaii. I loved Hawaii very much.
And last question, what life advice would you pass along to your grandchildren and great-grandchildren?
I'm sorry?
What life advice would you pass along to your grandchildren and great-grandchildren?
My life advice to them. Well, of course, they have to decide for themselves. Do you believe in God? Do you believe in your Savior? And according to how you answer, it's going to influence your life. And I believe that if you can truly love the Lord and take His blessings and recognize His blessings and His instruction, you can't go wrong.
Okay, that's it. Thank you for letting me interview you.
It's a pleasure. I wish I had a better memory, but at 90 years, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.